Hi, I'm Nancy Kiernan, your International Living Colombia Correspondent. And today I'm going to talk to you about why I moved to Colombia. But before we get started, I just want to know if you're enjoying our videos, please like and subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so that you get notified about new uploads. And please don't forget to leave us a comment if you have any questions. We'll be happy to answer them. So let's dive right into it. Why did I move to Colombia? Well, let's start from where I came from. I'm originally from the Northeast. I was born and raised just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, but I lived in the state of Maine for 27 years before I ran away to Colombia. My background is I was in healthcare administration. I worked for 30 plus years in a variety of positions, starting out in the clinical laboratory. Then I moved into management in hospitals and in private medical practices. I also was the director of clinical operations for a medical hospital and for a medical school. So in 2011, I decided that I had had enough of the cold and the snow in the Northeast, and I was going to relocate to Asheville, North Carolina. But before I did that, I said, let me take a several-month hiatus and travel around Central and South America and try to find my future retirement home, like 10, 15, 20 years from now. So I quit my job, sold the house, put everything into storage, downsized the house with the idea that I was going to travel around Central and South America, spending 4 months total, 1 month in each of 4 different countries. So I started off in Ecuador and actually ended up spending 2 months there. Traveled all around the mountain areas, the beach areas, found lots of lovely places to visit, but no place that really said, this is home. So while I was in Quito, I ran into somebody and I was telling him about what my plans were. And he said, oh, you should go to Colombia, and in particular, you should check out Medellin. And I smiled politely. And then when he left, I said, this guy's crazy. Why would anybody want to live in Medellin? And because I was living off of the old 20-year-old plus perception of what Colombia was like. So I did a little online research, and then I said, you know what, I'll go for 2 weeks. How bad can it be? And if I really don't like it, I don't even have to stay for those 2 weeks. So I bought the ticket, left Ecuador, landed in Medellin, and by the 3rd day, I was in love with the city. It's first world. Really what really solidified it for me was the weather. It's called the City of Eternal Spring for a reason. The weather is perfect for me. It's mid-70s to low 80s every day. In the evenings, it's about mid-60s. We sit at just a few degrees north of the equator. So we have 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night every single day. So that's great. We don't really have seasons. We have times when it's a little bit rainier than others, but in general, it is really a very stagnant as far as weather pattern changes, which is great because now you only need 1 set of clothes. Coming from the Northeast, you know, I had the plastic bins and the cardboard boxes with the off-season clothes. So in the summertime, you had all your sweaters and wool skirts and long sleeve turtlenecks and all of that in storage. And then come fall, you brought those out and you put away your shorts and your t-shirts and your sandals and bathing suit and all of that. Well, here I have 1 set of clothes that I wear every single day until either I wear them out or I get sick and tired of them. So the weather was sort of the first thing that really solidified it as a place for me to live. The second thing was how first world it is here. The city of Medellin in particular, we have 30 universities. So there are tons of cultural and interesting things to do. We have a growing gastronomy scene. Medellin has Medellin Gourmet Month, two months out of the year, one in the spring and one in the fall, where about 70 to 75 local restaurants all participate, and they offer price-fixed menus, so you can go around and check out different restaurants for a very reasonable price. We have festivals. We celebrate everything from flower festivals to we have the International Jazz Festival. We have Colombia Moda, which is Fashion Week. There's always some event, some major festival going on pretty much all year long. And in particular at Christmas time, the Christmas lights in Medellin are spectacular. So after you finish listening to this, do a Google search for Christmas lights Medellin, Colombia, and you can see some of the pictures of how spectacular those light displays are. So those were sort of the first two things that attracted me to it. And then the longer that I stayed here, while I was supposedly just testing this out, I decided, you know, I'm kind of at the most liquid point I've ever been in my life. My daughter had graduated from college. I had sold my home and downsized with the idea that after this little jaunt, I was going back to the U.S. I had sold the car. I had already quit my job. And I said, you know, I am the most liquid I will have ever been in my life. And so if I'm going to make a change, maybe now's the time to do it. Because if I go back to the States, then I'll have to move to Asheville and get all my stuff out of storage and find a job and buy another car, and my life's going to get all tangled up again. And maybe I should just move here now, because what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is I don't like it. And then I just pack up and I go back to the States and I pick up where I left off, and no harm, no foul. So that was the idea. So when I came here, I originally came just for a few months, but then I went back to the States and got rid of everything that was in the storage unit and finished my downsizing. And then I ultimately moved here in May of 2012. So I've been here for 8 years now. So after spending more time here, what I discovered was how central of a location Colombia is, Medellin in particular, but Colombia is. We are at the tip of South America, so we are the gateway to South America. So this has become my new home base. So now I can travel around Colombia, but I can also travel around South America. Obviously when the planes fly again, but, you know, so it's easier to go to Ecuador. It's easy to go to Peru. It's easy to go to Uruguay or Brazil or Argentina or Chile, and check out that. Whereas traveling from, Maine in the Northeast, you know, that's quite a long haul. And now Medellin, Colombia is my new base. But before I started traveling around the other countries, I said, let me discover more of Colombia, because Colombia is a fabulous, fabulous country. It's the second most biodiverse country in the world. Brazil is number 1, Colombia is number 2. So we have pretty much anything you want for a climate. We have mountain climate, which is where I live in Medellin. We're in the middle of the Andes Mountains. We have cooler climates in Bogota, which is the capital. And then we have the warm tropical Caribbean coastal climates of Santa Marta and Cartagena, which, you know, if you're a beach person, then those are great places to go. Because of the terrain of the country, we have the 3 ranges of the Andes Mountains that run through Colombia. People don't usually drive from region to region, they fly. And it's actually a faster, and it's a not very expensive way to travel. If I want to go to Santa Marta for a weekend or for a few days during the week, I can get a plane ticket depending on the time of year and how much advance notice for $50 round trip. And in an hour, you know, I can be on the beach in Santa Marta or in Cartagena. Whereas if I were to drive or to take the bus, it's about a 10 to 12 hour car ride. Because why? Because we're in the Andes Mountains. So you're doing this, you're going up and down and around the mountains. And, you know, it makes for a long and relatively uncomfortable trip. So I started exploring Colombia and really the wealth of things there are to do and places there are to see. We have coffee country. It's called Eje Cafetero, and that's where the climate conditions and soil conditions produce some of the world's best coffee. So you can travel to that area. It's called the Coffee Triangle. which is Manizales, Armenia, and Pereira. You can go to another mountain city called Bucaramanga, and Bucaramanga is, I call it Medellin light. It's similar in style to Medellin, but it is smaller. Medellin has 3 million people, and it is Colombia's second largest city after the capital of Bogota. So Bucaramanga is about a third the size. So there's about 1 million people. So if you like the climate and you like the vibe, but you don't want to be around 3 million people, then Bucaramanga might be a good option for you. There's also Cali, which is the 4th largest city in Colombia, and it is it's warmer than Medellin, and it is known as the salsa capital of not just of Colombia, but of the world. I swear that's where they invented salsa dancing. And so you can go there and you can take part in the salsa festivals, and it's a great place to learn to dance there. So what is my daily life like living here in Colombia? So after my family realized that, 1, I wasn't just on an extended vacation, and 2, no, I had not really lost my mind, and that this is now where I live, my daily life is quite full. I mean, I'm the international living correspondent, so I'm always out researching areas to live, interviewing expats, finding out the latest news, keeping abreast of all the changes in the laws and regulations to keep all of you informed as to what's going on. But aside from the work part of my day, you know, I can go out and have coffee or tea with friends in an outside cafe. Twice a week I go to Pilates class, which is 1 block away from my house. I spend time with friends. We go out in the evenings. We'll go out to dinner, or we'll have each other over. Going out to dinner is back when I lived in the States, it was a once in a while thing, because number 1, it was a little pricey, and number 2, it was you know, difficult to get to some of the restaurants and all, because I lived in a little bit of suburbia, so you had to get in the car and drive. Well, living in the city, I can walk pretty much, you know, I can walk within a 20 to 25 minute walk. I can be in one of the major restaurant zones and have a choice of, no exaggeration, about 100 different restaurants. And so it's easy to get to. And then once you're there, the cost of the meals, you know, for a couple, including wine and tip, you can eat at a very nice restaurant for $30 for both of you. You know, the last time I was back in the States visiting family, an entree was $30. You know, I looked at that and my eyes kind of glazed over, and I said, oh, I mean, that was a bit of reverse culture shock. So, those are, so I go out to dinner, I exercise, there's plenty, as I mentioned earlier, there's plenty of festivals, so there's always some event to go to. We have movies that we can go to, first run movies that are in English with Spanish subtitles. And then, you know, I do travel around the city, museums, concerts. Really, there's more to do than there is time to do it in here. I'm not really a sports person, but for those that are, we do have a golf course. We have people play pickleball. We have tennis. Then there's, of course, walking, jogging, running. If you go just a little bit outside of the city, you can go horseback riding. So, and if you like to play or watch soccer, you can do that also. So there are those types of activities. I can take a bus or get a ride from a friend in a car and go out to Lake Guatapé, which is about 90 minutes. Well, yeah, it's about 90 minutes away from Medellin. And we can go to the lake for the day. And they actually have zip lines that go over the lake if you want to do that, or you can just go and spend the day hanging around the lake, going in and out of some of the shops, eating some of the local food there. You know, and that is a day trip. Getting around the city is very easy. We have taxis, we have bus system, and Medellin has the only metro system in the whole country. Even the capital, Bogota, does not have a metro system. We have a metro system, and taxis are plentiful, and they're very inexpensive. Most of my daily trips, you know, to the grocery store or back, or over to a friend's house and back, are not going to cost me more than $3 a trip. So it's very inexpensive. And so there's really no need to have a car if you live here. If you live in other parts of Colombia, more rural areas, then you may want to have a car. But if you live in any of the larger cities, then that's not really necessary. Cost of living, that's one of the things. It's not what brought me here, but it's one of the things that keeps me here. The cost of living, I spend on average 60% less than what it costs me to live in Maine. For starters, because we have great climate, I don't have to deal with heat. So right then and there, my $6,000 a year oil heat bill went away. Things like property tax are very inexpensive. I own my own apartment. This is my sunroom, and I pay about $500 a year for property tax for this. And this is a 3-bedroom, 2,200 square foot apartment in one of the better parts of Medellin. As I mentioned, eating out is inexpensive. Healthcare is inexpensive. My health insurance premiums run me about $70 a month. And my copays are about $4. So that would be $4 for lab tests, or for prescriptions, or for an MRI, or for a specialist visit. So all of that. So I just wanted to give you a few insights into why I moved here. Usually I get asked the question, what brought you to Colombia? And my knee-jerk joke response is a plane. And I know that sounds kind of cute, but really, I didn't choose Medellin, Colombia. Medellin, Colombia chose me. When I landed here by accident, it turned out to be the best accident that ever happened in my life. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave some comments. I'd be happy to answer them. And I look forward to talking to you again in future videos in the future. Hasta luego.